My calendar stopped flipping weeks ago. I think it's the only honest thing left in my apartment. I have a quiet life. Too quiet, maybe. I work as an accountant and my world is defined by numbers that always add up. My apartment is small, minimalist, and perfectly ordered. Every book is alphabetized, every spice jar labeled. My routines are a comfort. Morning coffee, the 10-minute walk to the corner store for the paper, the methodical process of sorting my mail. I live alone, but I've always found peace in my self-sufficiency, in the complete control I have over my own small world. Today, according to the calendar on my wall, is Wednesday, October 6th. It started with the paper. I'd walk to the corner store, buy the Daily Tribune, and return. But when I'd check the date, it was always Tuesday, October 5th. Every single day. I'd laugh it off, thinking the store was just clearing out old stock. But when I saw the headlines, the same local news story, the same baseball score, I bought 2 copies, put one in a locked drawer, and opened the other. The next day, I repeated the routine. The paper I bought was Tuesday, October 5th. I rushed home, unlocked the drawer, and the copy inside was also Tuesday, October 5th. The only date my reality seemed to allow was yesterday. Then came the tangible evidence of the loop. I started leaving small secret markers, a single rubber band wrapped around the faucet handle, a book intentionally placed upside down on the shelf. Every morning the rubber band would be gone and the book would be spine up, perfectly aligned. It wasn't just a day repeating, it was a single finite space of time being reset every night. The temporal bleed intensified. I'd be looking at my hands and for a flash the skin would seem older, spotted with liver spots I didn't have. I'd walk past a mirror and see my reflection smiling, a wide, manic grin that wasn't on my face. The sensory details of my apartment began to subtly shift. The wood floor, which I knew was a dark oak, would occasionally look like a pale maple, only to snap back to the familiar oak the next time I glanced down. Paranoia became my constant companion. Who was resetting the day? Who was meticulously cleaning up my clues? I started thinking about the neighbors, the people in the store, their eyes too wide, their movements too fluid. They weren't living yesterday. They were performing yesterday. I bought a cheap digital camera and left it recording overnight, aimed at my front door. The next morning, the camera was gone. Not stolen, gone. The space where it sat was clean, dusted. But beneath the edge of the carpet, I found a small coiled wire, the power cord, snapped clean off with tiny burn marks on the ends. I stopped trying to leave the loop. I simply tried to find its edge. On the morning of October 5th, again, I chose a new marker. I pulled a single grey hair from my head, stuck it to my forehead with a tiny drop of superglue, and sat up all night, terrified. At 3 a.m., the lights in the apartment didn't flicker. They just died instantly, plunging the room into absolute, total darkness and silence. I didn't move. I heard a sound, not the click of a door, but the soft, sticky sound of adhesion being removed, coming from right in front of me. Then, a voice, deep and resonant, spoke, not through my ears, but into the bone of my skull. Subject is resisting the narrative reset. Primary memory trace is contaminating the current loop. Initiate targeted erasure. The lights snapped back on. The apartment was pristine. I scrambled to the bathroom mirror. The grey hair was gone. My forehead was smooth. But as I stared at my own wide, frantic eyes, I saw it, a small, dark smudge, like a fingerprint, pressed deep into the glass of the mirror. I wiped at it, but it was on the inside of the glass, and as I looked closer, the smudge wasn't a fingerprint. It was a tiny, dried piece of blood and tissue, a perfect miniature circle pressed into the mercury backing. I am back in the loop. The date is October 5th. I bought the paper, I made my coffee. I no longer leave markers. But I can't shake the memory of the voice or the sight of the blood on the mirror. I realized that the narrative reset wasn't just cleaning my apartment. It was cleaning my mind, removing the unwanted memory. And the final terrifying twist, I started checking my mail again. I found a stack of letters tied with a string, all postmarked September 1st. They were from a lawyer detailing the final paperwork for a divorce I don't remember, and a second set of letters from a clinic detailing my successful discharge from a 2-month mental health facility stay. The truth is, I never had a life of quiet control. The Wednesday, October 6th, I remember, the before, was the life I had after the mental break. A simple, contained simulation meant to ease me back into reality after the trauma of the divorce and the breakdown. The Tuesday, October 5th. I'm living now isn't yesterday. It's the last perfect day of my therapy, and my mind is trapped in a protective loop, afraid to move forward to the real life, the real pain. And the voice I heard wasn't an alien controller. It was the doctor's voice performing the final daily recalibration of the simulation. I am the architect of my own cage, and my only companion is the small, dried piece of tissue on the mirror. A fragment of the original broken me perpetually pressed against the thin glass of this false reality. I check the mirror every morning, terrified that the doctor is going to wipe the last memory of the real me. The open house smelled like my laundry detergent, and the bowl by the door had the same chip as mine. I don't tour houses to buy, I go to clear my head. Saturdays, I walk through 2 or 3 listings, eat the free cookies and leave before the agents start circling. It's a game, blue booties over shoes, name on the iPad sign-in, a polite nod at phrases like light-filled and move-in ready. I like the sameness. White paint, fruit in bowls, beige rugs. It calms everything down. Today's address was 5 blocks from my apartment. 3-bed, 2-bath, staged. I texted my sister the link. "I'm just looking," I wrote. She sent a thumbs up. The door was already propped open. On the table inside sat a glass bowl for keys. Mine has a chip on the rim from when I dropped it last winter. This one had the same chip in the same place. I told myself 1,000 bowls chip the same way. I slipped on booties and signed in. The iPad auto-filled my full name and phone number before I typed. I wiped it, typed a fake name, watched the form correct itself back to me. The Wi-Fi banner on my phone popped up with a network called Home, no lock icon. It connected without asking. The list of connected devices showed kitchen speaker, front door, and bedroom lamp. The lamp toggled off and on when I tapped it. In the living room, the lamp obeyed. On the mantel, the framed art wasn't generic. It was a photo I took 2 years ago, rain on bus glass with streetlights stretched like rope. I checked the frame. It was the same slight warp at the bottom, where the matting sits crooked. I had printed only one. The kitchen smelled like my detergent and my coffee. The fridge hum sounded right, and I knew it shouldn't. On the counter, a ceramic mug with a hairline crack sat on a cork coaster. The crack was identical to mine. The pantry had 2 boxes labeled with marker in block letters that looked like my hand. Winter coats and cords. Inside were things that could have been mine, same brand, same wear. But I told myself staging companies buy in bulk. The agent drifted over, smiling. "Back again?" she asked, like we had a shared story. She handed me a folder that said, "Welcome home," with my last name embossed. Inside was a printed offer form with my signature in wet blue ink. The date was today. The time under it was 7 minutes from now. "Funny," I said. "That's not mine." She glanced at the paper and back at me with a soft, practiced pity. "It never looks like our handwriting," she said. "Until it is." Upstairs, the primary bedroom had a dent on the left side of the bed, like someone sleeps there and gets up to turn off the fan. The alarm clock read 11:30 as the default bedtime, which is my default. I told myself every person sets 11:30. The closet held a jacket with a torn cuff and a single loose thread. Mine tore the same way last month. In the smaller bedroom, a corkboard hung with 3 notes in my handwriting from last year. They were not the words I would display to strangers. Buy salt, call mom, change filter. The thumbtacks pressed into the cork like they had been pressed by my thumb. I decided to leave. At the top of the stairs, a neighbor in a yellow windbreaker peered in through the landing window and waved. "We've got you for the picnic," he called. "We saw your RSVP." He said my name right without asking how to say it. The front door lock had a keypad. I don't use keypads. My thumb still went to the 135 pattern I use on my building's laundry room. The lock chirped green. Outside on the lawn, the open house sign now read, "Welcome home," with my last name. 2 women carried in a covered casserole. The agent met them at the door. "Set it on the counter," she said. "He likes the kitchen warm." My phone buzzed with a bank alert I didn't open. Then a calendar reminder I didn't set. Keys, 3:30 p.m. at this address. A delivery van rolled up with a box printed with my full name and the word "Move." The driver looked right at me on the porch. "You again?" he said. "Same place." "I didn't order that," I said. "You did this morning," he said. "You were wearing that jacket." I crossed the street to get my head back. My old apartment key bit my palm in my pocket like a real thing. I typed my address into maps. The blue pin slid from my building to the house behind me. My home-saved location updated without asking. Street view already showed the open door, my shoulder in the frame, my bag strap. Updated just now. I called my sister. She picked up and said, "You're fast," in the tone you use when you've already hugged someone. "Do you want us to drop the plants tonight or tomorrow? We're loaded." I didn't move, I said, and it sounded small. She was quiet a beat, then said the sentence you say when you've carried boxes. "You always say that." The call ended on its own. My phone displayed change of address confirmed with this street as the new entry. Back inside, the agent guided me gently with 2 fingers at my elbow, like I was late for something neutral. The casserole women set forks and laughed about who brought the good dish soap. A child I have never met tugged my sleeve and said, "You came back this time." The jacket with the torn cuff fit me like my jacket fits me because it was my jacket. The bowl with the chip held my keys after my hand dropped them. It was easy, easier than stopping. At the door, the agent taped a new sign over the open house panel. Private showing, resident only. She smiled the way people smile when paperwork is done. "We'll get the rest of your things in later," she said. "It's always hardest when you try to keep both places." I sleep with the stage lamp on, and the neighbors keep arriving with food as if I've always lived here.